हेलो गुड मॉर्निंग माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स, हाउ आर यू ऑल। आप लोग कैसे हैं? आशा करते हैं आप लोग स्वस्थ हो हैं और मज़े में होंगे। चलिए आज हम लोग पढ़ते हैं टाइप्स ऑफ नर्वस एक्शन। टाइप्स ऑफ नर्वस एक्शन में आप लोग का रिफ्लेक्स एक्शन, इनवॉलेंटरी एक्शंस एंड वॉलेंटरी एक्शंस आएगा। What is voluntary action? It is the action initiated by the brain and is expressed as a muscle movement। मतलब कि ये एक्शन ब्रेन में होता है और इसका एक्सप्रेशन हम लोग मसल मूवमेंट के द्वारा पता लगता है। एग्जाम्पल की वी आर टॉकिंग ओवर अ फोन, किकिंग अ फुटबॉल, ये सब हम लोग सोच समझ के ये एक्शन लेते हैं जिसको बोलते हैं वॉलेंटरी एक्शन। नेक्स्ट वन इज इनवॉलेंटरी एक्शन। इट ऑकर्स एंड कोऑर्डिनेट्स द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ इंटरनल ऑर्गन्स। कहने का मतलब है हम लोग का इंटरनल ऑर्गन्स इनवॉलेंटरी एक्शन से काम करता है। एग्जाम्पल बीटिंग ऑफ हार्ट, पेरिस्टल्टिक मूवमेंट ऑफ द फूड पाइप, स्नीजिंग, ये सब कुछ हम लोग को सोचना नहीं पड़ता है। विदाउट आवर थिंकिंग दिस process is carried out. That is called your involuntary action. The third one is your reflex action. Reflex action, it is an automatic response to a stimulus. Example, pulling our hands back on touching hot object. मतलब कि when you touch a hot object, that time we don't have time to think how to react. We just pull our hands back. That is your automatic response to a stimulus. Stimulus is a condition which is created by the environment on which we show our action. That is called your reflex action. Our next topic is reflex action, types of reflexes. There are two types of reflexes. One is natural reflex and the other is conditioned reflex. What is natural reflex? Natural reflex means there is no previous learning or experience required. For example, coughing, sneezing, closing of our eyelid when there is a flash of light on your eyes. Over here, there is no previous learning or experience. We don't act on any kind of experience. It happens just by itself without our thinking. Another one is a conditioned reflex. What is conditioned reflex? It is developed over a period of time due to experience or learning. After lots of experience and learning, it is developed over a period of time. For example, a student stands up in a class when the teacher enters. That means it is a conditioned reflex. He knows that he has to respect the teacher, so he stands up in the class. This is only after experience and learning. Another one is a child salivates on smelling tasty food. You can control your saliva or it can also appear. So it is also a conditioned reflex. There was a scientist, I.P. Pavlov. He was a Russian scientist. He tried to find out what is a conditioned reflex. So he rang a bell when he gave food to his dog. Every time, whenever he gave food to his dog, he rang the bell. And so he found that the dog salivated when he rang the bell. One day he tried to check again, so he rang the bell but he did not give the food. So at that time the dog salivated. That is, this kind of reflex is called a conditioned reflex, where dog understands that if the bell rings, so he will be getting the food and his saliva is produced at that time. So this is an example of your conditioned reflex. This we can do even in case of human beings also. We know that at 8 o'clock we will get our breakfast, 12 o'clock we get our lunch. So at that time we feel hungry. That time we start thinking of food. So this is also your conditioned reflex. Okay, let's know about reflex arc. What is reflex arc? It is the pathway that a stimulus takes to travel from receptor organ to the effector organ. Means ये एक रास्ता है जहाँ से स्टिमुलस फ्रॉम द रिसेप्टर, जहाँ पे आपका स्टिमुलस फील हो रहा है, वहाँ से ब्रेन तक जाने में और ब्रेन से इफेक्टर ऑर्गन तक आने में जो रास्ता अपनाया जाता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड योर रिफ्लेक्स आर्क. इट इज जस्ट अ पाथवे फ्रॉम वेयर the stimulus travels from the receptor organ to the effector organ. The sequence of events occurring in a simple reflex arc, that is the events which occurs in a simple reflex arc or a reflex arc is, first is a stimulus which is taken up by the receptor. Then from the receptor, sensory neuron carries the message to the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, it is carried by the motor neuron to the effector, and where you see the response. That is the sequence of occurring a simple reflex arc. Let's know about the components of reflex arc. First one is your receptor. What is the receptor? Receptor can be a tissue or an organ such as eye, ear, nose that receives the stimulus to initiate the nerve impulse, which helps the nerve impulse to carry out its specific function. So a receptor is a tissue or an organ present in any part of your body. Another one is a sensory neuron. It transmits the impulse from the receptor to the central nervous system. That is, it carries the impulse from the receptor. Central nervous system, it consists of spinal cord and your brain. In spinal cord, it usually causes a reflex which happens in the trunk and the limbs of the body, whereas brain causes reflex such as closing of the eyelids when bright light falls on them and peristaltic movement. Peristaltic movement is the movement of food in your food pipe. However, the processing of impulse does not takes place during the reflex action. The other component of reflex arc is your motor neuron. Motor neuron, it carries the motor impulse from the central nervous system to the effector organ. And the last one is your effector organ. It can be a muscle, gland or an organ that is activated by the motor impulse in order to provide a suitable response through the stimulus. That is, effector organ can be a muscle, a gland or an organ that is activated by the motor impulse, and it provides a suitable, the gland shows a suitable response through the stimulus. Final reflex arc. How does it work? The receptors present in the skin receives the sensation. For example, let's say heat or pain. The sensation is then transmitted to the dorsal root of the spinal cord so that it reaches the spinal cord through the sensory neuron and then to the spinal cord. The impulse is transmitted to the motor neuron by the relay neuron, which is present in the spinal cord. As a result, motor neuron emerges from the ventral root of the spinal cord and it reaches the limb muscles. In turn, it causes the stimulation over there. This directs the muscles to move the limb away. That is, it means that the stimulus is received by the receptor and then it is carried by the sensory neuron, which is present on the dorsal root side of your spinal cord. It reaches the spinal cord. Over there you find the relay neuron. From the relay neuron, the impulse is transmitted to the motor neuron, and hence this motor neuron emerges from the ventral root of the spinal cord. Ventral means the front side and dorsal means the back side. Front side of your spinal cord through the motor neuron, and finally it reaches the muscles or the effector organ, where you see the response taken by the muscles. It can be drawing away your limb back, or it can be your sensation of heat through which you draw your hands back. I will come up with more interesting topics. Till then, goodbye friends and my dear students. I hope you like my video. Don't forget to subscribe, share and like my video. Thank you.